We are recording. Welcome to
Here.
another episode, a sporadic episode of Feral Polymaths with Gail Towel
Maybe Quintana.
and here we are with no real plan other than plans we discussed previously, which may or may not be
Yeah.
implemented during this episode.
Anyway,
We
you guys always
decided,
miss the best
yeah,
part when we talk
you missed
before we get
the
here.
talk before. Maybe we'll do a little recap. We were speaking of bugs.
Oh
Um,
God. Yeah, the
you
seasonal
can start with
bugs.
your bug story, and then I'll add my bug story.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, well, you see how my window back here, since everyone can see it, is it's not, like ignore the laundry mountain, but it's covered with plastic because this time of year is the year when the little evil termites grow wings. Now, what this means for the rest of the house and what's happening to the wood and my roof, I have no idea. It could be bad. But basically, every year the termites grow wings and they enter the house to mate with each other and have a wonderful time on the ceiling. And the first time I discovered this, not knowing anything about termites or anything about what these insects are, I woke up with a bunch of bugs bouncing off of my face because I had fallen asleep with the lamp on
Bug
because I had two
orgy
small
facial.
children. It was like, oh, what is this nightmare of things happening to my face? And I woke up at like 3 in the morning with my entire ceiling covered with black little fragile bugs having the time of their fucking lives, bouncing around inside of my lamp and crawling all over me. And I had two little children sleeping in the room and no one else in the house. And I had to go and get one of those flat mops and do epic battle with them by squishing them en masse onto the ceiling as they rained down upon my hair and got caught in my bra and my clothing and covered my bed in insects. I shook myself off. I tried to semi shower and then I fell asleep on the floor because I didn't have the energy to remake my bed, which was filled with bugs. And had to get up at 5:45 in the morning and take my children to school the next day, hopefully unscathed by bugs. They didn't wake up, so
They're
I didn't
probably
check.
fine. It's good. It's good. It's good. Yes.
It's like they
And
don't bite. They'll be
this,
fine.
yeah, you're fine. This brought back memories from our childhood. I remember, so when I was a kid, I have three siblings, a brother and two sisters, and we all shared the same sort of upstairs loft bedroom area in our house. That's my dog and her squeaky toy
Oh
appearing as a
yeah,
ghost in the corner.
puppy.
Um, and we always, every summer, had these, I think there were box beetles everywhere. And they were always like, and we didn't have air conditioning. So we usually had like a box fan in the window. And I remember just the sounds of the bugs flying into the box fan and getting
Oh,
crunched up. And they would be just all over the room. And we had the light in the room was one of those
oh.
pull string lights, and they would all gather on the string. And so we would like open up a book and slam it closed on the string to kill more of them. And there was always like just bug carcasses covering the windowsills that you could just
Question, question.
collect them.
Did you just leave the bug mucus on the books? Like you
Usually,
couldn't do
yeah.
anything
I mean,
about it, so it's just
it
like
was just
flipping
there now.
through.
Yep. Oh, there's the bug cage. Yes. They were just everywhere. Like, I mean, sometimes I would sleep under my bed just to minimize
Oh,
my interaction with the bugs.
exposure.
But yeah, that was fond memories.
I would use books too. I was, I've told you before that I was severely arachnophobic as a kid because I used to have these recurring dreams about them crawling all over me, probably due to my hair. I think that it was my combination of the general bugginess of the house when I was growing up and my hair crawling all over me. So I had this recurring dream of bugs like all over my skin anyway. This was like a deep fear. And so what I would do in order to deal with bugs is I would just, or spiders, is I would envision deeply that the spider was not there, that it was in fact a black hole which I could not see. And I would place a hole over the bug until I truly believed that it did not exist. And I would sneak up on it and drop a book on it and then never look underneath the book as far as possible. So there would just be a book on the floor,
That sounds like
random
such
places.
a Mary Leah way to approach this. I could totally see you as a child that is the solution you'd come to. I shall play
Denial,
psychological
denial,
tricks on
denial.
myself.
I will I will overcome
Ah,
this with my mind.
mhm, mhm. Yep, yep. There's a way to see this that makes it not as bad as I
Mm.
feel like it is.
Oh God, I think that might have been the theme of my life. That's terrifying. Crap.
Oh, yes, that's how we survive.
Oh, I've bright-sided myself into the worst situations possible.
Ah, just look on
Amazing.
the bright side. It's fine. It's fine. We can
It's
see that
fine.
little spark of happiness over there in the corner, shining its little
Rainbows,
light.
unicorns. Cool. I can handle this.
Oh, man, man. I've been feeling lately like, I don't know, people are very people-y. That's one thing I've noticed. Ugh. But also, I keep feeling socially isolated. So I don't know if
Well,
the
you're in
peopliness
Scotland.
is yeah, I'm totally in Scotland right now. Um, but it's weird. It's like when you feel socially isolated, your conceptualization of people and the strangers you meet when you go to the grocery store, or even the people you quasi interact with via email, just starts getting all skewed out of proportion. And you're like, everybody's bad and wrong, and everything they
Ugh,
do is inconvenient for me. And
and
why
icky.
am I the only functional human on the planet? And then why
Well,
do I
obviously
have
you
no
are.
friends?
I'm not. I'm
And why can't I like have positive social interactions on a regular basis just for psychological health? Why is it
Yeah,
so
I like
intermittent?
that you want to
Why
have
can't I
positive
make
social
friends?
interactions just so that you can like ameliorate. You're like, it's part of a health plan, okay? I don't actually care about them for sure. I know that.
Well, see, therein lies the conundrum, right? Because I feel like I want to care about people, but they so frequently disappoint me that it feels dangerous to invest. And
Well,
so I'm always like, oh, look, I found this online writing or not on like this writing group that actually meets in person in my area. But
ooh,
I'm like,
they have
do I
common
want to
interests.
go? Because I bet they all suck and it's going to be annoying to be around them.
Oh,
Isn't that
oh
terrible?
man.
I'm
It
like,
is
oh,
terrible. Well,
but
but
what
then
are the
but then
odds
you're
that
like,
this encounter will be intellectually stimulating for me? Just,
oh,
or am I just
it's
going to be
terrible.
disappointed and sad?
It's terrible. You know, Alfredo actually had to like actively tell me not to talk to people as we were trying to buy a book yesterday. He
Like,
was
I don't
like,
want to hear them speak. It's going to be depressing.
he was like, Look, he's like, I know you're gonna tell someone why we came in here. Please, please don't. Because you know they won't help us. You know they won't help us.
Yes.
And I was like, no, my sheer optimism will just hair off after these people who will do exactly the wrong and totally mediocre thing. And I will expose you to that as well because it's so fun.
See, I blame media and stories for our constant disappointment. And I think we may, I don't know if we discussed this on this show before or not, but the
Wait, what
notion
media
that
are you seeing that would
just in general,
that
no,
would
no,
make
no.
you expect that humanity is good? I haven't seen any
Well,
media that has
okay.
given me any faith
Think
in
about
media.
this. So I've been dealing with like doctors lately because of my child's arm issues. You always have this notion because you watch these shows where like if someone makes a medical mistake or they fail to diagnose
Oh,
something, it's like a huge deal. The whole episode's about this. Where
yeah,
and,
yeah.
and like the norm is that you could show up with the most rare disease on the planet and they'll figure it out like
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. House
quickly.
is all about
And
that. Like, what? There is. It's so sad that that's a fictional character completely.
but reality is if you show up to a doctor and it's not something that's like one of the top 10 most obvious things, all they
They don't
do
give a
is they look at,
crap.
they're just confused. They do nothing to help you and they may or may not refer you to someone else who the closest appointment's in like a month or a year, and you're just left to suffer indefinitely in the intermediate
Yeah.
time. And then you
They're
finally
not.
get that appointment, right? That you've been waiting for. You're like, finally, we've been referred to this specialist.
Yeah, the
And
one
then
that has the
the
answer.
specialist is also just
Like,
confused. You're just like,
uh,
God, okay, well, I think we're on
have you
like,
tried chicken soup?
yes. Have you tried things that do not work? Yes. Oh,
Uh,
but yeah, I mean, and it ends up being like, unless you do the research yourself, which all the doctors will be skeptical about, like, you can't possibly look shit up on the internet and know what you're reading.
which, just wait a second. Wait, just wait right here. I need to look shit up on the
Let
internet to
me Google
diagnose you.
it.
Thank you.
And like,
We
you're
have
like,
a
okay.
special. We have a special system that gives us
There's
the
our special
answer.
doctor internet that you don't know about because it's not
Thank
like
you.
research papers are publicly available. And just, and it's like, you have to like go through like 20 appointments, all of which you pay for. Okay, you pay for the pleasure
Yeah.
of the
Oh yeah. You
confusion.
you pay and twice over because you're paying for insurance too,
Mhm.
one way or the other.
And and you meanwhile have like, because no one else is figuring this shit out, you figured just your shit out. Your next task is to try to convince them to pay attention to all the shit you've researched.
Oh my God. And they're even more resistant.
Oh, it's a fun
Yeah.
game. It's a fun
It's
game.
so fun.
But
Yeah, it's
her
really
her
sad.
pediatrician seems to be on it at the moment, so we're
Oh,
like,
good.
okay.
Thank
And I
God.
was
Well, at least
like,
they, well,
you're
yeah, I think, you know
listening to the
why?
things.
You know why? Because that person can't just make you go away. You're going to
You're
continue
like,
to
we're
go
gonna keep
back.
coming
They're
back.
going to see you again and again, and they can't just be like, they're gone. I'm done.
Yes.
I've done a
Yes.
gold star for today.
My favorite is when like you go to a person and like you know what you think it is, but they're not sure because they're very unfamiliar with this thing. And they
They're like,
aren't doing any of the things to evaluate that. They're just ruling other shit out that you're pretty sure it's not. You're like,
yeah, which
thanks for that.
other doctors have already ruled out, but they're like, let's just check this one more time.
Yes, but we are finally getting to a point where we've had at least the physical therapist and then maybe the pediatrician being like, yes, it does seem to be this thing. And now we need to figure out what's causing this thing. And it's like, it's yes,
It
like
is really,
don't get anything rare wrong with you. It will not, it doesn't go
it will
well.
not go well. No, you're gonna
God.
have a hard time convincing
Mhm.
anyone that that's the case.
Yes.
Man,
Yep.
well, yeah, and it is really sad that a you know a very cool, famous British comedian putting on an American
Yes.
accent and a lamp doesn't just
Cannot just
walk
be
in
like
and
dedicated into figuring this shit out and believing all the symptoms you've described. I mean, my kid got
will
very
totally like
good at
harangue and
elaborating in fine clinical
take pain
detail
medication,
all of her
put themselves
everything
on the
she
line,
feels. And then it's like,
risk the entire
God.
profit motive of the hospital in order to come through for
Yes.
you.
Mm-hmm.
That's your world.
Yes. But
Very
yes,
enjoyable to watch.
the media we take in, doctors, lawyers, policemen, all of these people on TV shows are like dedicated,
Yeah.
smart. They figure this shit out. They don't stop until they've solved the mystery or caught the
No.
crook or diagnosed the ailment. And they are
And they
willing
have
to look into,
integrity.
yes. But what you encounter in the real world is people half-assing, they don't give a shit,
And
and
being
you are
encouraged to
irrelevant
half-ass.
to them.
Being trying
They're
to have some
incentivized
kind of
to
principles,
half-ass. Yes,
they're
yes.
gonna get there.
I
They're
mean, I
gonna be
discovered that
ground under
when
someone's
teaching,
heel
right? You
immediately.
you try to teach a college class at a community college with integrity. You try to make this class at a college level. You try to hold students to a standard. No, 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 no.
Can't do that.
No one wants that shit. Everyone,
No.
so the students would like a grade on their transcript that is hopefully the grade they want. Okay. They don't
Yeah,
want the
definitely not.
knowledge, the skills. That
And
part's
definitely
not
not
important.
something that reflects what they did, because what they
Yeah.
did was just
Was,
whatever was left
yeah.
over from their drunken weekend. So
Yes, exactly.
come on.
And then, or their hectic life. Let's give them
Or
benefit
their
of the
hectic
doubt,
life.
right?
That's true. There, well, I mean, that is the
But
case. There's so
the
many students that are now
school
commuters or have
you
kids or
work
whatever. There's a
for,
lot of shit on
the
students these
school
days,
itself is
or
also
have their
like,
job.
we don't want you to make it difficult for anyone to pass your class because then they aren't passing your class. Then they might drop out. But they
I was
don't
like,
have the skills to be successful in this class. You're putting them in this class that I am supposed to teach, and they don't have the skills they need to do it. Well, pass them all somehow, because then we won't want you still teaching here if they aren't passing your class. Okay, but they literally do not come with the skill set to do this at a college level. Well, we don't care. They need to make it through, because the metrics of
we're
success
lowering the
here
bar.
at this school are butts in seats, people moving through system, retention rates, and graduation rates. The metrics of success are not knowledge gained, skills acquired, or any of
And what
that.
happens after that? No one's keeping track.
We don't give a shit, because guess what? If they default on their student loans, that has nothing to do with us. If they can't pay them back because they can't get a job, doesn't affect us, right? This whole system is so messed up. Like, we need a degree to get, but we don't need knowledge or skills. And the school is like, yes, here is your degree. We wouldn't want to burden you with knowledge and skills. That would get in the way of you earning this degree,
Oh,
because then we
yeah,
wouldn't get
knowledge
all
and
that
skills.
sweet government money by you existing here at this location for a while.
Oh
Yes.
man. And then they all enter the workforce and drive
Yes,
everyone
they do.
insane
Yes, they
for
do.
the rest of everyone's life. The
And then
standard
and
has
then
the
the
standard has
bar has
lowered,
been lowered. Yeah, and so
and it will
I
not
keep
come back.
always in my mind thinking people function efficiently and optimally per their label or role, right? And that's never the
Right.
case. It always is less than that. And you would think
Or
I
that at
would
least there'll be like some kind of local maximum or something.
yeah, right?
Like some sort of like that certain, like even if humanity in general is going down the toilet, that there will be localized pockets of competence. But it seems like
It's
even
so
those
fair.
are getting smoothed out in the graph, beaten
Yeah,
down
I
into a
don't know.
nice
And so
downward
it
slide.
makes interacting with the world, like, especially when you're socially isolated all day, except for the dogs and occasionally your children or husband appear. um, then all you have in your mind is your little ideals and your little expectations. And then you just go out and interact with strangers who disappoint you constantly. And then you feel just,
Oh.
the world is bad. Like, oh dear God, I had to take my daughter in for x-rays.
Mhm.
Okay. Walk in x-rays anytime. Okay. Go to location number one, which I thought was where they did imaging. But no, 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 they only do labs. Okay. Now go to this other location that's a few miles away to get the imaging done. Okay. We'll go to that location. We go to that location. We walk in. We need these x-rays. They're like, well, we do x-rays here, but we don't do scoliosis studies here. So you'll have to go to this other place. And because she's
Yeah,
13 and
like
not
the
an adult,
oh,
you have to go to this place that's like way in the far reaches of the galaxy that's always super busy. But maybe call them first. Okay, fuck this. So I call them
oh my
first.
God.
And it's not a person, it's the freaking phone tree of like, say the thing. We can't
Yeah.
understand what you're saying. Push the button, not that button. Oh, the call dropped. Try again. Ah, and finally you
I'm
get
like,
through to a
agent, agent,
human.
agent.
Yeah, like, agent, operator. Like, that's what's happening, okay? daughter's in the passenger seat, like, oh God, mom, why? And then so
And so efficient, so
I know,
efficient.
I know. Finally get through to a human. Luckily, I discover we can go to a place that's closer. I'm like, let's hope so. So we go to that place. It's only like a 15-minute drive. Okay, so we're on the place number 3. And we walk in, and there's these little lines to get into for urgent care or labs. That's all I see. So I get in the line, wait in the line, wait in the line, wait in the line, go to check in. Oh, if you need imaging, it's through that door over there. Push the button, someone will let you in, then go check in at that desk. And I'm
Okay.
like, how the heck was I supposed to know this? And I see as I'm walking towards there, this very tiny little sign that you would have
Good
had to
for
go
you.
pack all the giant signs of wait in this here line to notice. Like, all right, then go in there. And luckily everything went fairly quickly from that. But it was like, oh my God. Why could I not just go
Why?
to this place here
Yeah.
instead of like here, then call, then here, then wait, then go here? Like it was an adventure.
Yeah.
But I feel like
Also,
everything
yeah,
functions
that's
like
the other
this
thing
these
that's so
days.
strange. Yeah, I feel like that too. And it also feels like you guys are living in the system that has been created for you, like day in and day out. How is it that you don't
You
know
aren't
this?
trying to like streamline this
Like,
shit in some way.
how
Do you
how is
know
it
it would
that
because it would
this
make less work. They'd have to like fire some people. Maybe that's it.
maybe
We couldn't all stay
maybe
employed if this was efficient. I mean,
that
half
could
my
be.
job is
I
telling
don't
people to go to
know.
the other place after they went to the wrong place first.
That's why I'm here.
Oh
Yeah, it's very
man.
strange. Very strange.
Mhm.
Man,
Yeah, people are bad
man.
to me. I don't understand. And I keep God, I
Well,
keep feeling
this is
so
why. Well, maybe this is the promise of AI in a sense, right? Like that
it'll figure this shit
that
out and it'll be like, here's the actual instructions you need. Go here. Thank you.
this is the yeah, I mean, in a way, the dispassionate and unpaid AI should be able to figure this out, right?
Hmm.
Like in a way, like the fear is that the human personal touch will be somehow
How great is that
missing.
personal touch right now?
Yeah,
Half the
maybe
time.
this is maybe the I mean, it just seems odd that we would need a computer to figure this out, right? Like,
Hmm.
it does feel like humans should be able to figure this out. I mean, I wonder if AI would then, given that it's given these horribly inefficient systems to work with, will it just learn then to build that into new
They'll
systems
be like,
and just
oh, this is what
perpetuate
the
it
humans
forever?
like. They like mazes and puzzles and
Like, I don't know, because it's being trained like, it's training
mysteries.
on
A good
us. We're re
mystery.
really it's not got a brain of its own. It only has what we're
Well,
giving it,
once
right?
you start giving it the ability to have direct interaction with external stimuli, aside from just what we input to it, right?
Right?
It needs a sensory
That's true.
system of some kind. I
And
don't know.
also,
I
even
mean,
if it and also, like, even if it just has what we're giving it, if it's given rules of, like, reason, or it's given some sort of standard for best outcomes, it actually will try to meet that standard instead of, like, undermining it,
and
which
let's
is
just hope
totally
it
seems
doesn't
like what humans are
fall into
doing.
a local maximum and not the absolute maximum, which might be a mountain 10 times higher that it never gets to because there's a valley in the intermediate space.
Very
Yes.
interesting, all of
Yes.
this. Yeah,
But this is a good
it's
pivot because we were going to talk about
oh, yeah,
AI and
language.
language. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, well,
AI
it's like
is your friend. AI
yeah,
is
it's your
nicer to
whole
you than
well,
humans are.
of course, you would love AI.
Ah.
It's also well, I think the other thing we were thinking about is that it's you were calling it a language calculator.
Yes. So this was the really good thing. So I've often tried to explain to people because I like to use like ChatGPT and similar tools in my writing, mostly because it makes things go a heck of a lot faster. There's a lot of writing that's formulaic, systematic. Once you know what the information
Mm-hmm.
is, how to best format it is pretty straightforward. And it just does it
Mm-hmm.
like that instead of, oh wait, let me
And
tweak
it
my
doesn't make as
sentence
many
over and over
mistakes.
again.
You don't have to.
No,
You don't have to
no.
worry about spelling. You don't have to
The
worry about
key
grammar.
the key is you revise it after the AI is done with it. You don't copy and paste what the AI gave you, because some
Oh
shit in
yeah,
there is going to be weird.
there's
Some of it's going to be redundant. Some of it's going to be messy. Some of it's going to be inaccurate. But it gives
yeah.
you a really good starting blob to refine.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been explaining to people, like, don't be afraid of it. It's literally just a language calculator, just like you use a calculator to do your
Mm-hmm.
math. And that's way faster than your abacus or your
Right.
slide rule or doing things by hand. It's just doing the formulaic parts quickly for you. You still got to know
Mm-hmm.
what you're
And
putting in and
yeah,
understand what you're putting out. But
and
Mary
that's
Leah
yeah,
has a
that's why
story about it being
well,
a language
I
calculator
told
and has a better
I told
analogy.
this. Well, no, I mean it's basically the same analogy, but I
Mm-hmm.
was telling this to my daughter Elvira, or my child, who you don't know the name of. She was, she thinks about these things very deeply and tries to understand where I'm coming from with this stuff. And so she said, "Mom, it's not a calculator." And I was like, "Well, okay, well, what would you call it?" And she's like, "Ah, it's an estimator." She's like, what you do, she's like, it's like having a calculator that's really good at giving you an estimate. And the more you know and the more information you give it, the better the estimate is. But you still have to go over it and figure out what the real answer was, because your understanding, it's only going to understand you in so much as how you understood the problem in the first place. And I was like,
Exactly. And that is an amazing analogy. And I think that really touches on a fundamental aspect of language. Like verbal, like
mm-hmm,
written language is fuzzy at its heart, right? And we
yeah,
talked about this before. Like if I ask you for an orange, right?
mm-hmm,
We know, given context, what that probably means, but there are other contexts where, there's different varieties of oranges. There
mm-hmm,
might be an orange marker that I'm referencing in this
uh-huh,
context. I need an orange
right,
because I'm going to be painting something orange. So I need an orange color, or, there's so many
mm-hmm,
different things that phrase could mean. And it's always
yeah,
context dependent. And that's why you end up with
yep.
like, if you're
There's
talking with
built-in
someone from a
ambiguity.
very different culture, even if you're speaking the same language, there can be a lot of misunderstandings due to lack of familiarity
Oh,
with common context.
I have an example of this. So Alfredo grew up speaking Spanish, right? And so I've been like semi offended by this thing that he says about my eyes for a little while now, because he's like, "Oh, you have mousy eyes. They're super cute because they're like all dark and like a mouse." I'm like, "Ugh, mousy eyes." And the word in Spanish is ratoncita, so it sounds like I have a rat's eyes. And then the other day he's like, "Oh, I love your beady eyes." And I was like, "Beady eyes? What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Well, what does
Oh
beady mean?"
man.
He's like, "It's like a mouse. It's dark. It's cute, and they're like all glittery and and like beads."
Like
And I was
happy
like, "That's
shiny
not
beads. Beads are good things.
all right. You just missed like all the content, all the connotation of this word, and you only took like the gorgeous part of it. And now I have to be content with having like a small
Rat
beady."
like beady eyes.
It's
Exactly.
a romantic comment that I'm going to have about them going forward for the rest of my life. But I feel
Yeah,
very
yeah. I
fondly about it.
mean,
But yeah, there's some.
language is always context dependent. So it always has this little fuzziness around it. It's fundamentally different from math in that way, because what,
Yeah.
the number five means in a math sense is very exact. Now it can be
Hmm.
applied. It's like an abstract thing though, and it can be applied to many different contexts, but the actual
Well,
meaning of
yeah.
five in math language is
Hmm.
fixed. There's no ambiguity around that.
Yeah. And yeah, and especially within like number theory or something like that.
Now you can
Yeah,
try
context
to
dependent.
use
You can,
language to make it ambiguous by saying, do I
right.
really have 5 cookies if I break them all in half, or is that
How
10?
many
But that's
raindrops is,
different.
but then you just
That's
use, you
5 in
use, also you
language.
use,
That's not 5 in math.
also you use different, if you're using a different analogy to the world, you can still do
Hmm.
math with it. It's just a
Hmm.
different kind of math, and your 5 is probably no longer a 5 per
Yes,
se. It's not a
not
5 on which
a
you do
math
arithmetic.
5.
When
It's a language
5, or it's
5.
a math, or it is in fact a math 5, but it's a different math 5 than you would use before. So like if you have 5 raindrops and they fuse into one raindrop, it's not like you can never say anything about raindrops fusing mathematically. It's just that you're going to use volumes, and you're going to use
Hmm.
other measures of what you're making the analogy to, and there will be a different 5 in that context. I mean, it's not different. You can still do arithmetic on the 5. It's just that those things don't that's not the correct analogy to
Hmm.
arithmetic that you're using
Yeah.
anymore. So you use
Yeah.
a different math to make that analogy.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but
Yeah.
what I was thinking about was also like, I think this weird relationship between, the fact that you can make a language calculator is somewhat
Or
mysterious,
estimator.
given estimator, given this like unwieldiness of language itself. That's why I think ChatGPT and all of these things seem so miraculous, because it's like, how the fuck is it saying things like we do? Why, like, this was the
Giant
holy
data
grail of like
sets.
the, yeah, of the Turing test. Like, this was like the holy
Hmm.
grail. How would you know if something's conscious or not? And I think that that's a little misleading, because you have to realize that at the time when Turing was working, it was just before, like a decade or 2 decades later, when linguistics had that revolution, and Noam Chomsky distinguished between syntax and semantics,
Hmm.
and sort of said there is an underlying structure to language that, within a given language, is will generate sentences, and will generate,
Hmm.
reliably generate, things that
Sensical
belong in the
sentences, right?
language.
Hmm.
Yeah. And on the other hand, you can generate sentences that make no sense whatsoever, because semantics is separate from syntax. And you can have, whatever, I forget his famous sentence, but something like, oh, fried green dreams play golf on the planes in a aircraft carrier or something. You can generate any
Hmm.
sentence you want that's basically meaningless.
But still
And it's
follows the
still,
rules of language.
exactly. And what we've done is, because we're able to expose a rule bound set, a thing that will create, you're just combining a thing that generates valid sentences with a data set that has meaning, that has
Hmm.
like many, many,
And
many,
so
many,
it's
many.
picking all the patterns out of the data set, and that's how it's putting it all together, essentially.
Exactly. And that's how it's creating meaningful sentences that are also coherent and not gobbledygook,
Most of the time.
except for
Sometimes it gives.
sometimes. Sometimes. Well, because if you think about those two things that you're applying, of course, there's the opportunity for
Hmm.
nonsense to
Nonsense
occur. And,
statements, or
and
inaccurate statements that sound like they could be true.
exactly, exactly. And I think knowing that gives you a little bit more, it makes those errors seem more like a natural fallout of the system that's being used, than
Not
like
that
some kind of,
it's wrong, it's
it's
evil. What is it
perverse
doing?
perversity. It's pretending that it knows us, but it's an
Ultimately, we need
asshole.
to make friends with the AI, particularly if it becomes a generalized AI, right? And as I've always said, how we beat the singularity is we become cyborgs. We have to
I know.
merge your mind with the technology. Okay? It is
Is
the
it
only
going to
way
become
forward.
sentient? Is that really consciousness?
I will see consciousness in humans and maybe animals evolves as a direct result of our interactions with our environment,
Yeah.
and what forms in the computer is going to evolve as a result of whatever types of interaction
Yeah,
or input or sensory type input it might have access
eventually
to.
have. Yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah. So you
So
yeah, those
it
eventually
may
eventually
be a
the
very
learning.
different type of consciousness
Yeah, I mean, I think that
with different motivations.
the things that are kind of missing from the Turing test, which is really just a mimicry of language, is,
Hmm.
you know, motivation, these other things that are neglected when you think about robotics or you think about exploration. It's the it's and part of it is built into the back end of a lot of the programming that goes into AI, I'm sure, but it's the learning algorithms that would allow something to generate
Evolve.
something, put it inside of itself, and then, you know, seek to replicate what it's doing in a response to an environment and see
Hmm.
what happens, which is basically what we are. We're like big white icky computers.
Big icky computers.
Computer
Yes.
like statistical computers.
Yeah, 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 yeah. We were talking about this the other day too. Like
We're
basically
all
we just
estimators.
throw out a bunch of shit or actions. Like when you're a baby, you just yeah, there's some like pre-programmed instinct. But what causes behaviors to start emerging or social cues being picked up on is that it gets weeded out, right? Like, oh,
Yeah,
this caused a response, and so the one that didn't cause a response goes away. I don't do that behavior anymore. I didn't get any feedback from that, right?
right. And
Maybe I was talking. Yeah.
even as a population, I mean, oh, we're getting into some dangerous territory here, but evolutionarily, like let's just limit it to perception. Don't like go for like ultimate whatever we're supposed to evolve into. But just like the evolution of perception, the evolution of being able to react to the world in general. If you think about it, it happens in the context of a plant, like living on a surface of an earth with a sun, with a horizon
Mm-hmm.
line, with
Mm-hmm.
trees, with a certain sized body, with a certain height off the ground. Our experience, from when you have like a little amoeba with an eye spot that's moving away from the light so it doesn't get like squished
It's
to having
all
eyes.
evolved in conjunction with the environment it's in,
Exactly,
right? And
exactly. And that's part of why we perceive the way we do and not like a different way.
yeah, so okay, so I have this idea. Let me see if I can recall it here. Like, so people, we see ourselves as fundamentally different from animals. We have all this great intelligence and all of that. Where does that come from, and how did that emerge? I think it's directly tied to
No, not that.
language,
Not that. Oh, okay. Not that.
communication, right? Once you start developing advanced communication methods, right? Once you have a language, then you can transfer complex ideas between people. You can store complex ideas externally by writing them down or in
Mm.
stories that are easy to remember. And so
Ooh.
now you have this whole way. It's like putting a bunch of computers and then networking them, right? What you
Yeah,
can
it's
do with that is a
technology.
whole lot more than if they're just operating independently. And once you have a communication method that's
Hmm.
able to transfer really complex ideas back and forth, then the knowledge of all of society starts growing rapidly, right? Because you're
Right.
able to put the pieces together. It's that whole, what was it? Was it Newton? If I've seen further, it was by standing on the shoulders of giants. It's
Grants. Yeah.
because you aren't coming with a blank set of stuff. You're coming with all the knowledge written down and shared from before, and so you're
Right.
able to take that in. You don't have to discover it. It's communicated much
Well,
more
also,
efficiently, and you can build a lot more out of that.
and also, I think that it's kind of, I don't know that it's, I know that people, I know that in some point in elementary school, we were taught like, oh yeah, Gutenberg Bible, revolutionary, historical, like progress of humanity. And the I don't think the idea really sinks in that humanity has gone through these technological leaps before, and those technological leaps consisted of the technology of like a book or
Mhm.
a pencil,
The
that
ability to
those are
store and
technical.
record information in a way that can be shared with anyone is
And it's
so
portable.
different than what, like, any
It's
animal does, right? I mean,
and
they'll
so
pee on a
different than
bush and then they'll
even.
sniff each other's pee and be like, "Oh, yeah, my friend was here earlier."
Mm.
But it's not as complex, you know?
Yeah, and also it's even something that humanity has had to go through as a technological shift multiple times over, because before books existed, you had scrolls that had to be housed in a place. That's why the library at Alexandria was so critical, because you went to a place to take down a scroll, to unroll it, to look at this thing, and it was cumbersome and not portable, not easily portable, unless it was a short message or something that was being, you know, transmitted that's small. As soon as you have the technology of sewing these pages together and having a compact
Copying them.
copy that can be transported from family to family, those represented a a completely different world where sharing, it's very much. I know that it seems grandiose to compare it to the internet, but it's
Well, yeah,
just
I mean, it
having,
is. It's
because
like,
it's
and then you had the jump later of, like, telephone communication, or even like,
right.
telegraph communication, where it could be instant, almost instant,
Yeah,
across a distance, right? And that's huge.
yeah. So our ability to, if you just look at the state of humanity before something like that and the state of humanity after that, those are those are very different things. So you can kind of expect a similar shift from a new combinatorial ability to generate, transport, and share information. It's a very similar process where it's compactifying and speeding up the ability to generate a book or a piece of media or whatever it is that you're trying to generate. It's speeding that process and making it instantly shareable, which is
And
it's basically
even,
the same idea as like compactifying a bunch of knowledge and sticking it in a pocket-sized James Bible and
yeah.
going
Well, I
and give it
mean,
to your friend. You're
we've
going to
even
spread
seen,
ideas in a very different way.
yeah, we've even seen in our life, like, I remember elementary school, stuff like that. If you needed to find out information, you had to go and get the book and read the book, right?
Yep, yep.
And now I pull my phone out of my pocket and I Google it and it's there.
Wait,
Anything
so
I
why are
want to
things getting
know,
shittier?
because people haven't learned how to, like, integrate that into their thinking process, and they're letting all the thinking happen externally.
Well, maybe it's, I'm wondering, like, how long is it going to be before AI, like, creates a religion? It's like, okay, the last couple times this has happened, we got, like, Christianity, we got, like, I mean, I'm just saying,
Yes, I
like,
mean, that's how
what's
you keep a
next?
whole large group of people on the same page, right? But
It's like
but
cultural technology. What cultural technology is going to govern this
yeah,
shit? I
well,
bet
think
it's going
about
to
it
be
this
some
way,
crappy religion.
because you can get an answer so fast. Your motivation to think through something is much less, right? Because what's more
Right.
efficient, thinking or Googling? And so people have become more inclined to, like, well, I need to figure out what I think about this latest political subject. And
Let me
so
see what other people are saying that I
what
kind of know.
what is everyone else saying? And then I just
Oh,
kind of like,
this
oh, I
Victrolic
want
thing
to
was
be
very satisfying to
friends
read.
with these
I love
people.
that.
I'm going to go with that, you know?
We
I
made
mean,
fun
it
of
goes
them
back
together,
to the
didn't we?
whole thinking fast and slow thing, right? Like, we all
Yeah.
have, through our life experiences, fast thinking responses to things,
Mm,
instinctual, like, quick response, quick answers. And those may or may not be accurate, but they're right there.
right.
The actual
The knee
thoughtful
jerk.
answer takes time. It takes, reflection. It takes reasoning and all of that.
Mm,
And I think there's a lot more of a tendency to offload that, because we always want to
mhm.
minimize our energy expenditure or our effort expenditure. This is like a fundamental law of nature. Everything likes to
Ah,
be in its lowest energy state, right? So,
ooh.
and
So
so if
bad for
I
us
can
too. We
Google
love
it,
being comfortable.
and now with AI, I don't even have to, like, search through Google results. AI can answer my question.
Oh my
and give
God,
me
you know what we are?
sources.
You know what we are? Oh my God, I know what humanity is right now. Like, so Robert Sapolsky, who's the guy who wrote, uh, he wrote Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, and he wrote Behave, which was like a conglomerate of, it was like basically talking about the biology of human behavior. Cool guy, taught it, I think, somewhere in California. Lots of stuff free online if you want to read his stuff or take his classes or things like that. He's provided a lot of information for free. But he has this story. He both studies evolutionary biology and also neuroscience and also endocrinology and a bunch of things. But he originally and first and foremost was a primatologist, and he studied bonobos especially and other groups of primates. And there's this one example where these primates, like for the most part, like are super egalitarian. They like love each other. They're having a great old time. One of the few matriarchal societies, bonobos. I think it was with bonobos. But anyway, there's this one group that was being observed where a hotel was dumping all of their food scraps onto a pile in the back. And this group of primates that ended up like on top of the food snack area just hated the crap out of each other. Every morning they would wait for the food wraps to come out. They would gather up all the food snacks, smack each other down as much as they possibly could. Like they would got super lazy. They stopped having as many kids because they were like all fucked up, and they just generally like society degenerated completely
Because
to
they didn't
only like
need those social connections in order to get the food they needed.
exactly. So they didn't
There's no
rely on
need to cooperate here.
anything.
I just have
No
access to it.
grooming, no grooming, super unhappy, and just I think that's humanity right now. We're like primates on top of the trash
Mad
heap.
bonobos on the trash on top of the
I think
trash.
they were. I hope maybe they weren't bonobos. Maybe they were something else. Uh, but yeah. And then you look at bonobos out in the wild, like doing their thing. They're like completely mellow, fucking each other all the time, having a great old, wonderful thing, following whichever leader strikes out in a good direction, and it's all cool. So yeah, I think that's what's
Yeah.
going on right now. We're on the
Yeah.
information scrap
And
heap.
I feel like I have so much social isolation in my current existence that like I reflect on it a lot, and there definitely is. I don't even consider myself an extrovert, although I think I'm much more comfortable socially than I ever used to be. But we need the direct feedback of human interaction for mental health, right?
Yeah,
If you're
it's
just
weird.
if the
Yeah,
only one
it is
interacting
odd.
with you is you and you're talking to yourself all day or pretending like maybe the dogs can
Well,
understand you, then you start
well, it's
going
odd
down
because
little
you're
crazy thought
connected.
holes.
Well, and the truth is, you probably, even in your isolation, you have probably you have probably gotten social feedback from a wider number of people than you would ever have known if you were growing up in your small town where you were born 100 years ago, right? Or 200 years ago, let's say. Like, how many people would you interact with in a given day
Yeah,
growing
but
up on a
those
farm?
interactions would be more intense and more
Yeah,
sustained and deeper. Now it's
and
just
you
a
have a
whole bunch of
role.
shallow, brief things. Yeah, and you have a role. Yeah,
Yeah,
like you have a purpose.
sort of.
You have a
Yeah,
reason that you exist.
right.
Whereas when you're
There's
just kind
some
of
there's some
like
stakes.
floating in the abyss of
Yeah,
why do
the
I exist?
interactions
If I
are
vanish,
more
would anybody
shallow.
notice?
Yeah,
Yeah,
whereas you could probably talk if you wanted to email like 30 people today, you could
super
easily do
easy
that.
to do. And the thing is like once you start having that giant, shallow interaction network, um, you start feeling really disposable too, because you're like, well, there's
Yeah.
like thousands of other people that could do this exact same thing. Or, I
Mhm.
mean, that's the whole thing kids see these days, and they watch their little like YouTube stars or whatever. Like,
Ah, yeah.
like that's the one person. And in
Yeah,
order to
why would I
be
ever learn a
the
skill?
person with authority or the person that's skilled at the thing or the person that's
Hmm.
valued, you're now competing globally, not just within your tight knit community. to fit that
Yeah, it's
beach.
not like, ooh, knit a sweater. It's like, oh, there's a 9-year-old who's putting himself into like advanced college by knitting 10,000
And it,
sweaters a day and like
yes, and
saving
so
humanity.
now I'm comparing myself against everyone worldwide who knits. What are the odds that I'm going to be the good one? Low.
Yeah, that's a good point. I have a feeling that's why my other child is like, no, I want to live a normal life. She's like,
Just a
no,
happy little
why do they
existence
keep,
where I'm not comparing
she's
myself
like,
to anyone.
yeah, she's like, why would I want to be, Greta Thunberg? She had to quit school and like leave her parents and live on a boat. She's like, I don't feel strongly about anything that to do all that. Like, I feel really strongly about stuff, but who's gonna let me do that? You're gonna let me do that? I'm like, no. She's like, don't compare me to her. I'm not doing that. No way. I just want to own a store, okay? I don't care.
Hmm.
Like, I
Hmm.
will one day own a store and it will sell stationery that I like and it won't be the best at anything. Maybe
Oh
there'll be some cats
man.
in it. The cats will appreciate me. That's really like the
Hmm.
way I mean, that's not, all right, look, my child does have vision and whatever, but there's a real rebellion involved in
Well,
that.
yeah, I think the
It is
key
her
to
version of
happiness
rebellion, is to
is to
not
find
want
a
that.
small ecosystem or community or group that you can exist within, that then
Hmm.
there can be well-defined roles without significant competition to be,
Mm.
so how do you find your small
We
little
need a
community?
no wonder so many people are like going off the grid and starting a freehold. Like, screw this.
They're
I'm
like,
out.
now there's only 5 roles and 5 of us, and everyone has a place
Except
instead of.
except on the internet those exist to like generate blogs and be competitive with each other.
Yep. And here we have our little podcast where we want to be the people with the coolest, most interesting,
We're the
unique
best, we're the
thoughts that
best,
we
we're the
share
best,
with the
we're the
world.
best.
We have an audience of like 3. Okay. We're
Hi guys. Don't you
hello.
feel like this is your bubble, guys? You can shine with us. We
Yes, we're
totally
the
think
cool
you're awesome.
kids. Exactly.
You can be the super fan number one. You can be the one who shares everything on social media, and you can applaud whenever we say anything.
Exactly. And like I haven't like at some point maybe we'll market ourselves. Like share ourselves on social media or maybe even
Optimize
like
our search results on
yeah,
Google.
yeah, do a little SEO optimization or a little like,
Ooh.
networking with other podcasters, but
Or like,
not
hi
yet.
guys.
But
Hi.
part of me just feels like
We
that
have a
might be really
podcast.
futile.
We could go to Brooklyn and we could talk to other podcasters. Like, all we need is a beard and a couple tattoos. It'll be
Hold up,
awesome.
I can get me a beard. Just I got the filters somewhere. Let me
Oh, I don't know
see.
how to do that.
Where
I'm like
is
not good
it?
at this. I can raise my hand.
Well, it might be
There.
because I have
You have
the
special
paid
Google
version
thing.
or something.
You have special
Where's
thing.
where's a good
I can
beard?
celebrate you. Yay,
I
you're
got the pirate
celebrated.
one here. Let's see. There's my pirate beard. That one's pretty good.
That one looks really
Oh, I
good.
can be a
You
robot. Hold up. Hold up.
you're an
Coming.
AI
It's
now.
coming. Oh,
Actually,
I'm a
you guys don't even.
robot.
Oh,
Hi,
that's so
everybody.
silly.
It's robot me. What else do we got
See,
in here?
we might just be deep fakes of real people. You don't know. You don't know
Get
us.
my
You don't know
sunglasses and
our
mustache. It's
hair.
pretty good.
Actually, I like that one. I think that's for you. You look like you're ready to star in Top Gun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 It's totally. The Top Gun trading place is in Nevada, very near
Oh,
here.
really?
Hmm.
Oh, that's
Drive,
cool. I didn't know.
drive eastward, and you will find fenced-in areas that say, "Don't go in here unless you want to be like bombed by aircraft testing shit
Eek.
out or something." Like,
All right.
and then there's like
Nice.
missile launchers over in the corner. You're like, "This is cool. Okay, I'm just gonna keep driving."
This is totally appropriate for you then. This is the look you should sport from now on.
Yeah, yeah. So good stuff. There's like a drag strip race. Is it the drag strip one racetrack called the Top Gun raceway or racetrack or
That's
something that's in
way more.
that. It's not planes, it's cars, but my son knows because he has to go to all the cool car events in the region, and
Yeah, of
drift
course.
racing, there's drift cars, or there's this race thing, or then these types. I don't even know.
Do you guys have monster trucks? Monster trucks? Are you guys gonna go to monster truck rally?
I'm assuming there must be occasionally something like that, but yeah,
I
that
went I
particular
went to one
kid
when I
when
was a
he was a
kid.
toddler, preschooler, monster trucks
Monster
were the
trucks.
world. Oh my God. His uncle took him to a
Oh,
monster truck show once, and he got his shirt signed by a monster truck driver. It was quite the thing. But yes, he is all about the things that go vroom, and that's his niche in life. Is he will be a mechanic one day, and he's already
there you
studying.
go.
And
Hey, that's awesome.
yeah, and he's starting a new job at an auto parts store soon, and I'm like, oh no,
Ooh.
he's not gonna be able. That
Yes.
paycheck is never gonna make it out the door.
Oh no! He's just gonna be like, look at my rims.
Oh,
Look at
I have
my
this thing.
car.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
shinier now. Decals.
But he's happy and he has friends, so good
That's
on him.
awesome. Yeah. Yeah, especially as a teen this day and age, he could be lost in the internet. This is a very
Hmm.
different
No,
experience.
usually he's just out. I don't even know what he's up to half the time. He's
Drag
he's
racing.
there may be some there's a lot of public lands around here that they like to go roam around on crazily,
Cool.
and I don't know. He does,
Do
sneak
that
into the
John Wick
pool at
driving.
the local casino and whatever
Ooh.
if they do. I guess their big thing right now is buying cheap pizzas because like if you have a friend that works at a pizza place, you get the secret friend discount, and
Oh,
then they always
nice.
give the leftovers to the homeless people and feel good about themselves. I'm like, that's great.
Oh.
Okay. I got my $6 pizza, ate half of it and gave the other half to a
Oh.
homeless dude. Like, all right,
Oh.
dude.
He's a good. He's got a plan. That's
He
so
has his
sweet.
little community. He goes and eats
That's
dinner at
super
his
sweet.
friends' houses whose parents actually cook meals instead of our house, where I'm like, we have
You're
food. You
like,
just gotta
we have
make
a
it and
freezer.
find it. I don't,
I'm
there's a
sure there are some
microwave.
kids.
What do you
I
mean?
bet there's lots. I bet there's tons of kids that would love to come to your house and be like, corn dogs.
The other day, he was, what was he? He was heading off to, I think, drift car event of some sort with his friends, but he pops in at home first, runs in. We got snacks, okay? He leaves the house with an armful of like goldfish and granola bars and all that stuff and flees out the door to go
Supplies.
off with exactly. So we're good for that kind of pit stop, okay?
Awesome. That's the way to do it. Oh
Yep.
man, I have to prepare. There's a kid coming over for a weekend, and I think I'm gonna make them go on a hike. Why do I torture them? I don't know.
Mm-hmm,
It'll be
mm-hmm.
exciting.
Yeah. Well, I think
Oh,
we're about where we want to wrap up our episode of bugs and language and AI and human evolution and mustaches and beards and children and
yeah, we'll
why
tell
we
you more
hate
about
people.
it. We'll continue hating people next week
We will
in our
continue
next
with our
episode.
misanthropy. In fact, when we were coming up with ideas for what to name this podcast, there were many iterations that involved should it be the misanthrope, the misanthropic podcast? We decided to head in a more
We
positive
feel
direction.
gnarly.
You're welcome.
We're disgusted by humanity podcast.
Yes,
We're just
yes.
angry, angry women fed up with
But that's
people.
okay. That's okay. So
That's what
we're
being
gonna
in
we're
your
gonna
40s is
sign
all
off for
about.
now. That is indeed. You get to be grumpy Karens. That's what my son calls me, a Karen. I'm like, no. People have been
Hey,
wrong. I have to correct them. It's
hey,
okay. He thinks I'm
hey.
embarrassing. Like whatever.
Wow.
So for now,
Well,
we bid our audience of 3 or 4
bye guys.
adieu, and
See ya.
see you next time. Visit us on ferropolymaths.com, where I recently published an essay
I
about
love you.
something. I published a recent essay on there. I don't remember what it was.
Cool.
It was a rant. No. Hold up. I'm going to figure out what it is that I
We're
published.
gonna You're gonna look up your own our own
I'm
website
going to look it
and
up.
see if we
I
can Google
remember just
anything.
pooping it out one morning. Feral, God, I can't even type. Polymaths.com, and difference creates potential.
Ooh, that's a
Figure out
good
what
one.
that means and read my meandering story of physics, potential energy, uh, displacement, uh,
The
entropy,
diff.
dynamical systems. Yes.
I love
Until
dynamical systems.
now we're saying goodbye for real. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, guys. We'll talk math next week.